What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the MLB First Look podcast, presented as always by Run Pure Sports and Manscaped.com. We're discussing Tuesday's 12-game DraftKings slate, 11 games on FanDuel. We got a couple doubleheaders today, and the sites handle those differently. But we'll get to all that and more. I'm your host, as always, DraftCheat, joined today by G-Rizen. What's going on, man?
Not too much, just hanging out. We had a decent night last night. Getting ready to look at today's big Tuesday slate and break it down with you. Should be fun.
Yeah, I think better weather, hopefully, on today's slate. Yesterday was kind of complete chaos. There was 10 games to start. We ended up getting 2 postponements. Colorado and the Giants, obviously, that looked like that was my favorite spot for offense on the slate. It ended up being a pretty low-scoring slate in general in terms of offense. And then Cubs and Dodgers. I was on the playbook over at Run Pure Sports yesterday, and I was like, the games got postponed, like 45 minutes apart from each other. So I finished it, and then I was deleting the Rockies players out of it and the Giants players, and then I finished that, and then I gotta get all the Dodgers out of it, and it was just kind of chaos. So the playbook, if you're a premium subscriber at Run for Your Sports, by the way, DFS Heater 25 gets you 25% off your first payment. It was out a little bit late yesterday, just kind of out of necessity. But yeah, ended up being a profitable slate for me. Sounds like you did pretty good. I think the subs did pretty well in general. But hopefully a little bit of normalcy tonight. We'll see. We'll go game by game. We'll go by the DraftKings order of games, so we'll cover all 12 again. The second game of the Dodgers-Cubs doubleheader is on the DraftKings slate. It is not on the FanDuel slate, so that's the discrepancy between the two. All right, let's get to it. First game, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Aaron Nola, Eric Lauer. Lauer made his first and only appearance of the year on the 29th of April, pitched really well against the Dodgers. I thought they were going to perform well in that game, the Dodgers, that is, and they didn't. He went 5 scoreless innings, just 3 strikeouts, but still held them in check. And then Aaron Nola, who's been pretty damn good this year. He helped me to a big day on April 18th with that 48.1 DraftKings performance. Has slowed down a little bit since then, gave up 4 runs in Coors Field, 3 runs in St. Louis, a game that he pitched well in. I think he just gave up that 1 3-run home run, I think in the 5th inning. So, yeah, Lauer, Nola, Phillies, and the Milwaukee Brewers. What are your thoughts here, G-Rizen?
Yeah, you mentioned Lauer. Lauer did look pretty good in his start against the Dodgers. And, coming out, he only threw 73 pitches, though. So I'm not sure how long of a leash he would have. You mentioned Nola too. He did pretty well against, as you mentioned, against St. Louis there. He bounced back. He had another outing against St. Louis on the 29th. He went 80 pitches and gave up 3 earned runs. And then he went 6 innings, got a no decision. The bats here, Milwaukee got Kane and Yelich back. So that should definitely help out their lineup. Kane actually had a home run last night. So Kane's actually priced fairly cheap. I'm not sure if I'm going to quite go there. But it just looks like to me that this game's kind of boring out the gate as far as bats. Hoskins has been on fire. If you want to look at some in Real Muto has been on fire too. So if you want to look at maybe some of the Phillies, you can go there. I'm just other than Yelich maybe, but I just want to see Yelich a few more days before I jump into him.
Yeah, I'm with you on Yelich. Coming back from that back injury, took longer to come back from that than they expected. Was kind of off to a slow start to the year anyway, and obviously had a disappointing 2020. So I'm with you on Yelich. I think he's going to be not necessarily tonight because he's facing Aaron Nola, but I think in general he's going to be kind of a popular value play for a while here. Because he's still pretty cheap. I think it was 4,600 yesterday. He's down to 4,400 after not doing a whole lot.
He's 3,800 on FanDuel.
So I think you're going to see, the name value. I get it, but I kind of want to see something out of him. Kind of have the same approach that you do with Christian Yelich going forward. Aaron Nola, I think, is fine. But I don't mind pitching him at home here. He's Philadelphia's a pretty good hitter's park, but he's been, pitched there his whole career and been excellent for the most part. Good hitting weather too. That's going to be the case for most of the games today, thankfully. But yeah, I don't know. I think Nola's fine. He would be the play that I would go to. Lauer has some weird reverse splits where he's worse against lefties than he is against righties, even though he throws from the left side. And Bryce Harper would be of interest, but I don't think he's going to be in there today dealing with a sore wrist, so wouldn't want to play him even if he does go. So, yeah, mostly an avoid game for me right off the bat. Aaron Nola, I think, probably my favorite play in this game overall, but we've got a bunch of pitchers that I like on this slate, so don't anticipate having too much Nola, maybe a smidgen here and there. Next game on the slate, Huascar Ynoa and Joe Ross. Ross has had 3 pretty good starts and then 1 absolute clunker against the Cardinals. He is coming off a 6-inning, 4-strikeout game against the Mets. I'm not a huge believer in Joe Ross. I know some people think the breakout's coming with him, but I'm not going to mess around with him against Atlanta here. Huascar Ynoa, though, I think a little bit more interesting, coming off a 9-strikeout game against the Cubs. He had a 10-strikeout game back on April 12th against the Miami Marlins. So he's been good. At least 5 strikeouts in all 5 of his starts. Throws hard. Gives a lot of hard contact, but I'm less worried about that for DFS than I am kind of in the long term for Ynoa. So he's at least interesting. The Nationals still missing Juan Soto. What are your thoughts here on Ross, Ynoa, and in this game in general?
Yeah, Ross is a guy I can't really get too much of a gauge on. It just, like you said, he's up or down. It just seems like he gets blown up one day and the next day he comes out and he does fairly well. And these Braves on the other side, for me personally, they've just been frustrating. I was on the Braves pretty much all last weekend and over there down in Dunedin, and they just didn't break out as I expected them to.
Yeah, I was on them against Ross Stripling. They were just dreadful that game. I don't know if you watched that one.
I was on them too against Stripling. It was frustrating. Them are the days I get frustrated when they should just be beating up a guy and they just lay an egg. But I was looking around at a couple of the stats here, and not that I always put too much into the BVP, but Freeman is like 9 for 14. He's been on base 9 out of 14 times, hit 2 bombs off him. So he's obviously seeing Joe Ross pretty well. Mm-hmm. Freddie Freeman needs to get going a little bit. He's been quiet a little bit here in the last few days. So I could see Freddie Freeman possibly going yard here today. Ross, on the other hand, I was just looking here to see what kind of home runs what he's been giving up. Doesn't look like much, but it looks like he's been mid-90 pitcher, so I wouldn't doubt if we see him for maybe 4, 5, maybe 6 innings.
Yep.
And I think that Washington bullpen can get exposed too. So, yeah, I kind of like Atlanta here, but I guess I'm a little hesitant to put my toes in the water just because I got burned the last few days by him.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, and we should know better, right? We've been playing DFS long enough to know these teams kind of go through hot and cold streaks. And, I do believe in the hot and cold streaks to some extent, for sure. But, we know Freddie Freeman is I don't think he's hurt. I think his timing just seemed off a little bit in Dunedin. We were both on him Sunday, and we shouldn't really let one bad game take us off of a guy who, he got a day of rest, good hitting ballpark. He's dominated Joe Ross in the past. Again, neither of us are huge BVP guys, but it's worth noting when you're 9 for 14 with 2 home runs off a guy, I think at least. And Joe Ross, he's been a little bit better this year, but historically has been really, really bad against left-handed hitters. So it all kind of points to a big Freddie Freeman game. I think he's the guy that I would most want on the Braves. You could throw it in Ozzie Albies too, but I do prefer him against left-handed pitching in general. So, Freeman, I think, is the guy I'll go with. I don't think I'll end up playing like Acuna or Ozuna here, just because Joe Ross is pretty effective against right-handed hitters and has been better this year in general. So Freddie Freeman for the Braves, I think, is the primary bat I want in this game. Any interest in Ynoa or the Washington Nationals hitters? Yeah,
I'm gonna probably pass from Ynoa. I I'm not sold on him. I think there's such a big slate today that I'm not going to end up going there. Um, yeah, the Nationals are a team that definitely have a lot of big bats there. It looks like the wind might be blown out a little bit. Looks like it's going to be pretty warm. Trey
Yep.
Turner's always a guy that I look at shortstop. I mean, it's either Trey Turner, or I look somewhere else. He's usually the guy I look to first, just because of his stolen base potential.
Yeah.
You call it a poor man's home run. Dude gets on first,
Yep.
steals second. It's very possible with Turner. I'm not really a fan of him batting down in the 3-hole.
Yeah.
I much prefer him much more batting up top, but with Soto being out, and it just weakens that lineup a little bit. So I'm not interested in any kind of stack, but definitely Josh Bell. I mean, Trey Turner would be somebody I'd look at. And then I mentioned Josh Bell there. I'm waiting for that guy to get going. He just seems like he's been too quiet. He's actually priced down 2,700. But just such a big bat. I've been just quietly waiting to kind of watch Josh Bell. I've been trying to see what kind of pitches he's been taking. Usually when I got home run guys that are just struggling, I try to watch if they're walking, if they're just striking out a lot. And then when they start seeing the ball, the home runs generally come. But Josh Bell ain't there yet, but he's a guy I've been keeping my eye on.
Yeah, he had a slow start to the year, right? I think he missed the first 10 or so games with the I don't know if he had COVID, but at least was in the health and safety protocols if he didn't, and just hasn't really gotten going at all. I haven't played him much. I'm with you. I do expect him to get the power going, especially from the left side of the plate soon here, and this would be a decent spot to do it. So yeah, I think he's an okay option. Two-pitch pitcher. He's basically all fastball slider, I believe, which in general means that lefties are going to hit him hard once the league kind of figures him out. So I'm not on Noah. It would be more the Washington lefty bats, but I don't fully trust those guys quite yet. So mostly a stay away game. I do have quite a bit of interest in Freddie Freeman. I generally do, and I'm sure I'll talk myself into him more. So even as the day goes on, Houston Astros and New York Yankees next. Zach Greinke and Domingo Germán on the hill for the Astros and Yankees, respectively. Domingo coming off a very strong game against Baltimore, 6 strikeouts over 7 shutout innings. Greinke just doing his thing, that he always does, throwing a lot of innings, not many strikeouts, but generally doing pretty well in run prevention. ERA sitting right around 3.4, whip around 1.15. That's typically what he does. He doesn't have more than 6 strikeouts in any of his 6 starts this season, which makes him, not really a DFS play for me at 9,200. He just doesn't have enough upside. He did get to 31 fantasy points one game, but generally you're going to see him right around 15 to 20. So yeah, I don't really see playing either of these pitchers. I do like Domingo Germán in general, but don't think I really want to play him against the Astros in New York. And yeah, I don't know. I don't love targeting either of these pitchers in general either. So for, kind of a marquee game between two big franchises, I don't see a lot here to love from a DFS perspective. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. Between Greinke and Germán, those are our two guys you mentioned. We don't generally like to target.
Yeah.
And really on a slate like today, it's neither one really has the K upside. So
Agreed.
this one here is just, you either going to stack it all the way or not on both sides. And in reality, the Yankees had a pretty juicy matchup against the shitty Tigers over the weekend. So, with Judge and Stanton and LeMahieu, those guys may, Door maybe get a little ownership tonight just because they're the Yankees, and that over-under is 9 on that game. But I just, like you said, Greinke just doesn't generally get blown up. I can't at this point, I'm not in love with any Yankee stacks. They got a projected run total of 4.5, and I don't see anybody X. There's only one team that's a 5. So, you're talking about a half run difference from them being the top projected run team on the slate. So I'm not going to give them that much love as Vegas may be, but yeah, maybe you could play a one-off, maybe a Judge or somebody, but at this point, nothing's really like jumping out the page here at me.
I'm with you. I don't think I'll have probably any exposure to this game, depending on how many lineups they play. If I play 20 lineups, I'm sure a Yankee or Astro will sneak their way onto a lineup or two. But yeah, I just don't see it. I mean, also neither of these teams played yesterday, so both their bullpens got a day off, so all their best arms will be ready to go. Yeah, that 9 over under, that 9 total, like you mentioned, seems a little high to me. Might bet the under on that one, but from a DFS perspective, probably not on the Houston Astros or New York Yankees too much. Next game on the slate, Detroit and Boston. Nick Pivetta on the hill for Boston against Michael Fulmer for the Detroit Tigers. Fulmer's kind of been in and out of the bullpen. His max innings and pitches this year, he pitched 5 innings and 78 pitches back on the 14th. Since then, 60, 36, 47. I don't really think he's usable against Boston, even at 6,300, one of the cheapest pitchers on the slate, but I don't see going there. Nick Pivetta is interesting. He's been, at least results-wise, pretty good this year, an ERA below 3. He's 3-0, got 3 wins. And he might get one here, right, against the Tigers, who have just been – they have been so bad. I mean, they started off the year bad. They at least had some bats going. But, man, I think the Yankees – I think I saw a stat of the, 81 outs that you need in a 3-game series, right, 27 times 3. I think they got I think it was 51 strikeouts or something. So over half of the outs that they got were via strikeout. And this was, Corey Kluber, who had been struggling, Tyone, who's okay, but, nothing special. Tigers have just been striking out left and right, which I guess makes one have to at least consider Nick Pivetta, who, I just don't really think he's that good. He's walking guys all over the place. But 7,900, good pitching weather in Boston. I don't know. What are your thoughts here on Nick Pivetta? Do you think he can keep it going against what has been a truly dreadful Tigers team so far?
Yeah, the Tigers have been absolutely horrible. I actually saw something in the last 16 games. They're only averaging 6 base runners a game. It's just absolutely horrible. I mean, even here in Detroit, when you listen to the games, the announcers are even just they're just disgusted themselves how bad that they're hitting.
By the way, you guys need some new TV announcers. The Kirk Gibson and Jack Morris combination. Man, yeah. These guys are boring.
Yeah, Gibson's got Parkinson's.
Yeah, I don't want to. I'm not going to make fun of a guy for that, but man,
he's really slow. If he wasn't as slow with his delivery, I mean, he's very intelligent, very smart baseball mind.
Yeah.
And he could only, his shtick is only here in Detroit. He's only on the air because he's Kirk Gibson and former Tiger, and he's still a legend around here. I don't mind Jack Morris sometimes, but Jack sometimes he'll just ramble.
Yeah.
But
I think it's the worst announcing crew in baseball. I'll leave it at that.
Well, you might be right. You might be right. There's a few teams.
The Nationals are bad. They're just super homers. I don't know. There's a few bad ones out there, but
the Angels guys last night were bad. I don't know.
They're always bad. Yeah, the Angels are awful. Yep.
Bizarre, whoever it was, he was horrible.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of their names because I'm usually watching on MLB TV, so I'm not super focused. But you turn the volume on and off different games depending on kind of what you're sweating, and over time you get a feel for which announcers you like and which you don't. And for me, Detroit, hard to listen to. But anyway, let's get back to DFS. Yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on Pivetta here? You think he's in play at 7,900? I'm guessing he's going to be somewhat popular. I haven't looked at all the totals yet. I try not to do that kind of before I do my DFS analysis because it can, cloud your judgment a little bit just to see what Vegas thinks. But thoughts on Pivetta? I think that's the biggest question mark.
Yeah, Pivetta is definitely going to be on my radar tonight. Just looking at his game logs,
he's got to be with how bad Detroit's been.
Yeah, especially with Detroit. I mean, he's only he gave up 1 hit in both of his last 2 starts against the Mets and San Diego. Went 5 and 6 innings. He kind of average on Ks, 7 Ks against the Mets, 4 against the Mariners. I could easily see him getting to that 6-inning quality start mark against the Tigers.
Sure.
And then, I can't say I see Pivetta getting 10 Ks. I mean, if he gets 10 Ks or close to 10 Ks against the Tigers in 6 innings, I mean, that's I think that's a little bit of a reach. I want to say maybe 7 might be, 8 would probably be about what I would guess. It doesn't. I mean, he looks like he's going to top out at maybe 100 pitches, but the Tigers are just chasing so many pitches out of the zone that, you know, they're just helping pitchers with their pitch count. It seems like every game there's a guy, he's in the 4th inning, he's only got 30 pitches or something. I mean, it's just pathetic.
Yeah,
But
Kluber had like 6 strikeouts in the first like 3 or 4 innings, and he was at like 32 pitches. It's just like,
right.
Like, what are you guys doing up there?
Right. I mean, it was unreal. I think the first inning when Kluber pitched, I think they said he had a 6-pitch inning and he struck a guy out. It was like, you know,
Yeah.
how is that possible? But, you know, Fulmer on the other side, I think they got him to where they got him on they got him on a leash. They don't want him to go 50, 60 pitches. I think they're only going to let him go through the lineup once.
Yeah, he's not in play against Boston, I don't think.
Yeah, and then they're going to bring in some of that bullpen. So some of these Boston bats, I think, are definitely in play today.
Mm-hmm.
Fulmer hasn't been bad. But you got an over-under a 9 on this game, which is actually, you know, fairly high. And, you know, anytime.
Well, I know the Tigers are scoring 0 runs, so that means 9 for Boston.
Right. You know, the only bad thing is obviously you won't get that 9th inning at bat for sure, pretty much, right? You know you're going to only get 8 at bats out of them. But, you know, the middle of that Boston lineup is just rolling with Hugo, JD, Bogarts, Devers. You know, they're all hitting pretty well. Even I like Cordero too at the bottom of that lineup if he gets in today. So yeah, I think the Red Sox are going to be in play today. They got the highest projected run total. So yeah, I could see some stacks coming out of this Red Sox team.
I'm with you. Yeah, give me the Red Sox bats. Maybe some Pivetta. I think I am. I don't know. I'm worried about him just going forward in general, but the Tigers. We can't, you know, we got to move on eventually, but just such a good matchup. So I get it with Pivetta. I think he'll be. We'll see. What do you think on ownership on Pivetta? You think he'll be a popular play?
Well, with as many games as there is, I think you might get him in the maybe 20% range. Yeah. Maybe I could see. I mean, he may be one of the top 3 highest owned.
What's Boston minus 220 here, something like that?
I saw 195. It could have gone up.
Yeah, but, I was straight up guessing. So yeah, I guess that'll make him a popular play. I get it. I think he's totally fine. But there are a lot of good pitchers on the slate, and I'm not totally sold on Pivetta in the long term. Next game is Dodgers and the Cubs. Again, this is the second game of a doubleheader. This game is not available on FanDuel. So far, or at least right now, the projected starters, Trevor Bauer for the Dodgers. It looks like they're going to skip Walker Buehler, or not skip, move him to Wednesday. He was scheduled to pitch on Monday. Game got rained out. Now it seems like they're going to go, or at least they're saying they're going to go with Kershaw and Bauer. Buehler on Wednesday, so just a little note there. Adbert Alzolay will pitch for the Cubs coming off a really strong game against the Atlanta Braves. 6 innings, 2 earned runs, 6 strikeouts over 94 pitches. I think I read or heard that was his first 6-inning game of his life, and he's made quite a few starts for the Cubs, so there's modern baseball for you. I can't play him against the Dodgers, and you can play – in my opinion, you know, I have no problem playing a starting pitcher in a 7-inning game. We've seen some of these doubleheader games be really low scoring, I think. I mean, highlighted by the Braves getting 1 hit over 14 innings against Bumgarner and Gallen. But, I'm assuming you're with me. I don't really want to play batters in a game that's going to go 7 innings. You know, could go to extras or whatever, but 7 innings is the standard. So anything quick here? I mean, Bauer, I think, is certainly in play against the Cubs. At 10.7, he would be the primary interest here because I'm probably not going to play any bats.
Yeah, I mean, obviously on FanDuel, they generally don't have those 7-inning games, but on the few times when I do play on DK, these are games I generally stay away from unless I like a pitcher just because you can get that complete game bonus. So, I mean, you might if you think Bauer is in play today against the Cubs and you like that, you know, you obviously he's only got to go 7 innings. I could easily see him doing that.
Yep.
So
I would almost expect him to if he's pitching well.
Yeah, I could see that. So I mean, that's the only really thing that I would look at is that is Bauer trying to get that complete game bonus. Cubs do strike out a little bit, so I'm not. I think Bauer is in a pretty good spot actually. The Cubs are what, sixth in the majors in Ks, so I could easily see them throwing up maybe 8-9 Ks in that game. So yeah, I wouldn't mind Bauer.
Yeah, especially depending on what kind of lineup the Cubs threw out there. Pretty tough day for them. They got 14 innings of Clayton Kershaw and Trevor Bauer on the docket for Tuesday. So
yeah, that's no fun, huh?
no, could be a rough one for those Cubs hitters. Maybe some of those guys will get a break in the second game. If they do, obviously that would be a further bump for Bauer, who I do think is very much in play at 10.7K. Going to be plenty of value on this slate in general. Next game in Minnesota, we've got my boy Kyle Gibson returning to his homeland in Minnesota, where he pitched several years. He'll take the hill for Texas against Jay Happ for the Twins. Happ, to me, almost like a little bit like a kind of a Nick Pivetta. Two different pitchers, obviously, throwing from Happ from the left side, Pivetta from the right, but kind of a little bit of a mirage so far in terms of his results. ERA under 2, WHIP under 1, but really hasn't pitched all that great, to be honest. I mean, in terms of the batted ball luck has been very, very strong for Jay Happ. I'll put it that way. Last 2 games against Cleveland and Pittsburgh, made it over 7 innings plus in one of them, 95, 96 pitches, but only 3 strikeouts in each of those games, season high of 4. He does get a good matchup here against Texas, who is very prone to striking out, especially against left-handed pitchers. So if you want to make a case for Jay Happ that way, I guess I get it, but 8,600 on DraftKings, I can't play him at that price point. And Gibson, man, he's been outside of that, clunker on opening day when it was freezing cold in Kansas City, he's had at least 16.7 DraftKings points in each game. Hasn't allowed, it's been 0 or 1 earned run in every single game since then, which is at 5 straight starts. So he's been awesome. I don't fully trust him against the Twins here. Just feels like a kind of a bad spot. So I don't see using him, but 7,200 on DraftKings, not a bad price. He's 8,600 on FanDuel. I can't see myself going there. Your thoughts on Happ, Gibson, Twins, and Rangers?
Yeah, this is actually the one I was waiting to hear you talk about. Your Cy Gibson there.
You got to know when to jump off, and I don't think I'm playing him on this one.
Yeah, they got Gibson. The Twins are minus 170. Yeah, that's kind of surprising. Is
disrespectful to my guy Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that, I'm thinking, man, Vegas has no love for them. 3.8 run total for the Rangers. Just looking at Gibson, Gibson might be a guy you just might want to try to pivot to if you once you get through the slate and you kind of narrow it down to some of the pitchers. I mean, he does have. I mean, he's got upside. He's a good pitcher, right? I mean, a lot of times good pitchers do tame, some of the good offenses.
Sure.
It looks like the wind is going to be blown out at 11 miles an hour today out to right. So with that being said, just kind of looking at some of these Twins bats, and not again to go back to the BVP, but, when you notice something that just stands out, Josh Donaldson in his career is absolutely smashed Gibson. Let me pull it. Let me look. I saw it right here. Actually, he's 18 plate appearances, and he has been on 11 times out of 18, and he's got 3 homers against him. So
yeah, this is, I don't know.
That's something I pay attention to.
Yeah, he's been really good in terms of results. The underlying metrics have been falling off a little bit for Gibson. I hate to abandon my guy, but I kind of feel like a little bit of a blow up starts coming here for Kyle Gibson. And he's also he was okay in Minnesota, but going back to this team, for whatever reason, I just got a bad feeling for him. So I do like the Twin side of this one. Maybe I'll stack against my boy Kyle Gibson. I can be on the right side of him. In most of his starts, been on him. He's been good, but Not here, I don't think.
Looking at some of these pricing of the Twins, other than Kirilloff, the prices are all down a couple hundred from even Buxton. I mean, he was 45, 4,600 over the last few days. He's down to 43 today. So that might be because of the algorithm they ran with Gibson at pitcher. They dropped him down a few. So,
no discount on DraftKings. 6,300 for Byron Buxton over there.
Oh wow, he's incredible. I mean, he's just another guy. He gets on. He could literally steal, second and third if he wanted to. This Twins lineup, adding that kid in the middle of the lineup, your kid there, Alex Kirilloff, he's been just smashing it. Added another bat to that lineup, extending that lineup, and it's they're looking good. Yesterday they were just so pesky and didn't start out hot, and then all of a sudden they took off and had a couple big innings, and so I could see myself maybe looking at a few Twins. I do respect Gibson though, but I don't mind a twin stack, even a mini stack here.
Yeah, Kirilloff going to be probably in my core plays once again. I think he's been on my core plays I don't know, 9 of the last 10 days or something like that. Came through once again last night.
I had him too in my core yesterday.
Yeah, he's going to be in there again against Kyle Gibson. Anytime he's against mediocre to I would say Gibson's a little bit better than mediocre, I think, but no one that's going to scare me off of Kirilloff. Still too cheap, 3,200 on DraftKings, 2,600 on FanDuel. He's, in my opinion, at least $1,000 too cheap on both sites, maybe more than that. We'll see if he can keep this up. So Kirilloff, my primary target, but I am on the Twins in general. What about the Texas bats? Any of these guys you're willing to use?
Nobody's really at this point jumping out at me. Happ is a lefty. I just don't really like any of the righties on the Rangers. I mean, exactly. Solak sometimes is in play. Kiner Falefa, he's got a lot of hits he's been hitting the ball, but is just not producing any kind of big hits. No, it doesn't really produce any homers. Gallo hit a late home run last night in the later half of the innings there, but I'm just not a fan at this point of any of the Ranger bats, especially from the right side. But I can't say I'm really interested in Happ either. He just doesn't seem to have that K upside, even though the Rangers do seem to strike out a lot. But I'll probably stay away from these Ranger bats.
Yeah, I'm not going to use Happ. I have a little bit, I think, more interest in the Rangers than you do. Kiner Falefa did have a good series against Boston, hit home runs, I think, on Saturday and Sunday. He's at 5 home runs and I think 6 steals on the year. So at least in theory, a lot of upside from him. We saw Gallo go yard, as you mentioned yesterday. Adolis Garcia, I kind of like him a little bit as a hitter from the right side, kind of a late bloomer there. So, I'm not a believer in Happ, and I could see the Rangers rather doing a little damage. I think they'll be pretty low owned, just given that Happ's results have been good. But again, I think regression coming quickly for J Happ. Whether or not this game, that's hard to say, but I do believe it is coming soon. Next game on the slate, New York Mets and St. Louis Cardinals. Weather in this one looks okay in the mid-50s. Actually, could be raining, though, in this game. We'll see if it clears up in time. Wind out to right field, so I guess kind of, just average, mediocre hitting conditions there. But Jacob deGrom takes the hill once again for the New York Mets, coming off of his worst, or not quite worst, but his least dominant game of the season last time out, other than April 5th was his first game. 6 innings, 9 strikeouts, 1 walk, 1 earned run. That was Jacob deGrom in his last start against the Red Sox, which I guess was somewhat disappointing given what he's been producing.
Yeah, that's like his floor, right? You would think that's his floor,
Averaging just shy of 40 fantasy points per game on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I don't even know what that is. What is that, like 60 or something like that for Jacob deGrom?
Yeah, 60. He had an 80-point game there against Washington when he had them 15.
Man, the dude,
that was ridiculous.
Yeah, he's just on another planet right now. I've mentioned it. I think I said this back in early April. I think the current version of Jacob deGrom, who we see right now, is probably the best pitcher baseball has ever seen, just in terms of talent. I'm a general believer that talent in sports continues to rise, right? I think the players today in basically every sport are the best players that the game has ever seen. Jacob deGrom sits clearly atop the heap in starting pitcher talent and ability right now. So he's just incredible. I don't know why he's only 11.1K on DraftKings. I think that's at least 2,000 short of what he should be for what he delivers. And he's going to do it again, right? He's going to have a great game against St. Louis, assuming this game gets in. Again, a little bit of weather issues. He's going to be super popular. He's the best play on the slate, point per dollar wise. I don't think it's up for debate, really. And, I don't really know what else to say about it. He's going to be popular, but he's certainly worth it.
I agree with you. I mean, there's nothing worse sitting there in DFS when you're fading a guy like DeGrom or a guy who against a strikeout pitcher and you're just watching him get 2 and 3 Ks an inning. It's just
you're hoping when you fade DeGrom, and you and I have both done it from time to time because sometimes you want to stack and you can't afford DeGrom, but it's like a win when the opposing hitter goes like 3 pitches and then grounds out, right? You're like, okay, this wasn't a strikeout. He's 3 more pitches from being removed from the game. If that's what you're hoping for on your fade, maybe you just play the guy.
Right. I agree. And especially with such a big slate. I mean, on FanDuel, he's 12.5. I think that's actually the highest I've seen a pitcher in a while.
Worth every penny.
So, but I mean, he's almost an automatic 10 Ks, and he's going to go over 100 pitches.
Going to get the quality start. Probably going to get the win. Well,
right.
Actually, you can't say that for DeGrom. He doesn't get the win that often. But
you're right, because they can't hit when he's up on the mound. But I just DeGrom's a guy. He's almost now where you almost got to play him almost every day. I mean, especially if you've got 2 or 3, 4 or 5 lineups. I usually bounce back between 3 and 5. And I can pretty much assure you already that I'll probably, if I do 5, I'll have DeGrom in at least 3 or 4 of them. I'm not – with a guy like DeGrom, I almost like to say let everybody else make the mistake, right? If he's 50% owned and he goes off, well, half the pool is already done. So, I think that's just a spot he's in this year so far. You mentioned him being one of the best pitchers of all time. I mean, it's kind of hard to disagree.
Yeah, if you disagree, I think you're just kind of wrong, to be honest. Yeah, the data backs it up. So, I don't know. We don't need to go on and on about Jacob deGrom. He's just incredible. He's the best play on the slate. We have seen his ownership get super, super high recently. I think in the start against the 58.1 DraftKings points against Washington, I think he was over 80% owned in high stakes stuff on DraftKings in that start. I don't know if he'll get that high today because there are plenty of good options, but he'll be over 50%, especially in high stakes stuff. I think the lower you go, if you're talking the big, it's a $15 entry fee on DraftKings and they're kind of marquee, big GPP today. I bet it'll be like 60%. That's still 40% of the teams that are fading him. So, yeah, you and I both recommend DeGrom here. Not going to play any hitters against him. On the other side, Johan Oviedo is an interesting pitcher to me. I was on him a little bit in his last start. He was super cheap against Philly. That was back on the 28th. Gave up, I think, a home run in the 5th inning there to kind of, make his start not so good, but he was good. 7 Ks over 5 innings, 3 earned runs, got 16.3 DraftKings points. That was certainly worth it for the for the super cheap 6,300 price tag you paid. And he seems stretched out. The underlying metrics in that start were really good too. 18.6% swinging strike rate. So that means he got, 15 whiffs or so on those 86 pitches. Got ahead of hitters. He's got a good arsenal. He's sitting 96 in that start with his fastball, 96.2. So good velocity, good slider, curveball, changeup. He seems like a good pitcher to me, a genuinely good pitcher. And we know the Mets haven't been hitting. So, yeah, Oviedo, 6,600, doesn't feel super safe, but I could see stacking this game up pitching-wise.
Yeah, the Mets have been just terrible. I mean, other than Alonso's been coming alive lately. But
is this guy? I don't see him on FanDuel. Is he available
on FanDuel?
Yeah, there he is. 6,500.
6,500.
Yep.
You look at the Vegas totals here. I mean, they got the Mets at 3.8 team total, which is the second lowest team total on this pretty big slate. So
Yep.
they're giving your boy some credit too over there. But the Mets, like you said, they're just not hitting. Playing over maybe on DK, I could see Oviedo maybe being your secondary pitcher, but
I don't know
playing
if he's
on.
gonna. I don't think he's gonna get enough production though to be on FanDuel. You got to get close to DeGrom, right? To be kind of usable. Right. Even his ceiling game, I think you're talking 7-8 strikeouts over 6 innings is kind of the true ceiling, and then there's some obvious risk there as well.
Yeah, right. So I couldn't see him playing on a one pitcher slate,
Yep.
but I'm staying away from these Mets bats. They're just they just haven't been doing anything, and a lot of times too, I like to believe when another decent pitcher, above average pitcher, is going up against a guy like DeGrom, it usually seems like the other side brings out their A game too, because they know there's hardly any room for error. Sure. So a lot of times I like to target pitchers when they're faced up against bona fide ace. You do generally see a good side of a guy. So I think the bats here, and this one here is tagged as might be some possible rain. So
yep.
If that's the case, maybe we'll get some ownership off DeGrom. If we'll have to keep our eye on that. But I don't think there's not really too many bats here in this game that I'm going to look at.
Yeah, I almost hope it gets rained out. Take the free square away from everybody with DeGrom. For me, that just makes for a more fun slate where I can actually.
I agree.
Where I can actually choose a pitcher instead of, DeGrom chooses himself, basically. So let's go to Cleveland and KC next. Mike Minor and Sam Hentges, I think is how you maybe say that. Not quite sure. Pitching for Cleveland. KC, they've been off to a really, really good start. Their pitching's been excellent. Mike Minor has been solid so far this year. Nothing spectacular, but he's been okay if you've used him. What do you see between these two pitchers? I think probably more so going to the hitters in this game, but 60 degrees and some wind blowing in Kansas City, not the greatest hitting environment. So interested to hear your thoughts on these two pitchers in this game in general.
Yeah, that Sam Hentges, it looks like he got beat up. He gave up 3 home runs.
He hasn't been good. Start.
Yeah, he gave up 3 home runs in his last start in 5 innings, gave up 8 hits, 4 runs. The Royals been hitting surprisingly. I might look at some Royals here. Merrifield. I did see Salvador Perez yesterday got hit with a pitch on the wrist.
Okay.
So I'm going to watch Salvador, but, Santana's in a good spot tonight. Benintendi's been coming alive a little bit. The only thing that gets me with these Royals is I'm not a fan of the bottom 3 of the lineup. But the top 6 are definitely good, but I could see definitely looking at some Royals here. As far as any kind of Indians against Minor, the Indians as a whole, as a team, have not been hitting very well, except for Jose Ramirez and Franmil Reyes. Other than that, you're really not getting much out of that Cleveland lineup. But Franmil against the lefty, is generally sides to Franmil. He's just such a powerful bat. I mean, you get him cheap at 3,400. I don't mind Franmil as a one-off in Jose either. So, Franmil is probably a guy that I'd look to. I like to play Franmil a lot against lefties.
Yeah, I'm not using either of these pitchers. I think the bat's certainly in play. I wish it was a little bit better hitting weather in Kansas City, but nevertheless, I kind of like both offenses, especially the KC side. Sam Hentges, I don't think is any good. His results haven't been good, and his underlying metrics look pretty bad as well. Let's go to Tampa Bay and the Angels next. We got 4 games out on the West Coast, so we'll be a nice long slate. Alex Cobb on the hill for the Angels. I've been a fan. He's kind of faltered in these last 2 starts. Got pulled after just 51 pitches in his last outing against Texas. I expected much better from him there. Perhaps Cobb kind of falling back into what we've seen in the past. I'm still interested in him, but probably not in this matchup. And then Shane McClanahan, the guy who's going to make me shave my head on air because I said if Matt Chapman hit a home run off of him in his last start, that I would do so. I will once I'm back on that show with JT Hayes. He was good though at that start. Only went 4 innings, but did strike out 5. He was absolutely electric out of the gate. I don't know if you ended up watching that start. He looked incredible, touching 100 miles per hour, 101 miles per hour from the left side with his fastball, big breaking balls. It's not clear how deep they're going to let him go into games. He's dealt with some injuries in the past. He's kind of a smaller dude and kind of has a violent arm action, but 59 pitches last time out. I would assume he'll get more than that if he's pitching decently well. Tough matchup, of course, against the Angels, right? They got a lot of good hitters on that team led by Trout and Ohtani, but I think McClanahan, 7K on DraftKings. On FanDuel, kind of an interesting call. He's 5,700, so he's super cheap. It's just a question of, do you need the savings? You usually don't, right? On FanDuel, you're more of a FanDuel player than I am. Probably not going to get you the quality start. I think 6 innings would be a stretch for him. So your thoughts on McClanahan and Cobb and then any hitters here?
Yeah, the McClanahan, it would just scare me with the leash. He did look good. He had 5 Ks and 4 innings against Oakland. Until he gets up to 80, 90 pitches, I probably would. I'm not even going to be looking at him.
Yeah, makes sense.
Cobb, on the other hand, though, he's given up 3 earned runs. Last 2 starts, he only went 2 innings in each start. But you look, he's not given up any home runs. He's only given up 1 home run so far this year. And what does he get? 4 starts. So, Tampa strikes out a lot. I mean, this is this could go either way, right? Like he could get blown up, or Cobb could go out and throw 6 innings and get you 7, 8 Ks, pitch 100 pitches. So to me, I do like the Tampa bats. They've been hitting recently. I do like some Tampa bats, but I can't, I can't say that it really jumps out at me here, but just Cobb not giving up the home runs is in the Angels staying in Anaheim. It's not really a home run park. So, I can't say that I'm really leaning anywhere, but, on the other side with the Angels, I don't care if God's pitching. I like Mike Trout, right? So
yeah, basically,
he's just an animal. And Ohtani, he had 2 homers last night? I know he had 1. I think he hit 2.
That's annoying because I really wanted to use him against Glasnow, and you couldn't because he was listed as a pitcher, right? He got scratched.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that too, like Glasnow is going to be so popular. If you weren't going to play Glasnow
I said that in Discord. I literally said I'm frustrated that I couldn't use Ohtani as a hitter. So of course he hit. Yeah. Of course he had a big day.
Of course.
Yeah.
But like I said, those, and even on the Angels side too, Upton, they've all been hitting. So Pujols has even been hitting, but the Angels stack as a whole is pretty expensive. So, if you're looking at any kind of Angels stack, you're probably not going to be able to get to DeGrom. So, at this point I'd be leaning toward DeGrom. So I'm probably going to say I'm probably not going to be able to squeeze somebody in as expensive as a Trout or somebody like that.
Yeah, maybe I'm missing something. I don't see Ohtani available in the DraftKings player pool.
You know what? I don't know if I see him on the FanDuel one either.
So I don't know what the deal is with that, but hopefully they add him. I don't think I'll actually play him lefty versus lefty. He really does look much better as a hitter when he's facing.
Not in the player pool for the Angels as of now. He's not.
That's weird.
Listed as a hitter.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, Trout certainly in play against McClanahan. I think McClanahan a better play on DraftKings despite being more expensive over there, just because you kind of need the savings a little bit more on DraftKings in general. You got to roster 2 pitchers, and you don't get the quality start bonus like you can on FanDuel. So I do think McClanahan in play at 7K, but tough
I think
matchup
they
for
ran
him.
the pricing algorithms with Ohtani at pitcher today.
I
Both
don't
sides.
know. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Yeah.
I think they may have because he had a little blister problem. I think he was supposed to start even yesterday.
Yeah, he
So
was
maybe
supposed to start yesterday. That's why you couldn't play him as a hitter because he was listed as a pitcher, and they only let you do one or the other when he starts. So I don't know. That's that. Yeah, we'll see what kind of develops, but we don't need to spend a ton of time on it right now. Let's move on to Toronto and Oakland. Cole Irvin on the hill. Two lefties here. Cole Irvin and Anthony Kay. Kay, nothing special. I think that's kind of an understatement for him. He'll make his second appearance of the year. Cole Irvin has been good for Oakland, no question about it. Last two starts, 8 strikeouts, 6 strikeouts, had 6 even in 3 starts ago against the Tigers, of course. Only 2 walks in each of those games. He's actually only walked 4 guys on the year compared to what does he have for strikeouts? Yeah, 25 strikeouts to 4 walks. Pretty impressive for Cole Irvin. I don't love it against Toronto, who does swing it really well from the right side, but I guess you could make a case for Cole Irvin at 7,400, K at 6,100. Not in play for me. I'll be on the Oakland right-handed bats most likely against him. Your thoughts on Irvin, K in this game in general?
Yeah, K looks like he's a guy we might want to look at stacking against potentially. Yep. He got blown up. The Royals blew him up pretty good. So I could see some Oakland bats against, you got Chapman. Hopefully he can get it going. I do like Alderete. Laureano is tough. Kanaha usually hits lefties pretty well. I should say, I call him Canna. So I do like some of these athletic bats here today. But as far as the Blue Jays, they did just travel. They just went from, they're all the way out west now. They were in Florida. Generally the first day or 2 days that they get out there, I mean, I realized they played last night too. But generally I like to kind of lay off teams after they traveled so far.
Yep.
I do like the Blue Jays bat as a whole. I think that lineup is really good from top to bottom.
Yep.
So I can't say just because of that I'd be really looking at Irvin. But, the Blue Jays bats are going to always be in play. I mean, they're just solid from top to bottom. But I'm going to tend to lean more here on the A side today.
I'm with you. Yeah. I think Irvin's okay if you need a cheaper pitcher. Like I said, he has been genuinely pretty damn good for the A's so far. We see, A's pitchers generally perform well, I think. And then especially when they're in Oakland. So I don't mind it. Not the top of the list for me with Cole Irvin, just given the matchup. But I do think he is in play and should be at least serviceable. And then the Oakland bats are a place where we're both going to be looking against Anthony Kay and that Toronto bullpen. Next game on the slate, Pittsburgh and San Diego. Ryan Weathers making a start for San Diego, who they just got weird stuff going on with their pitching this year, outside of like Snell and Darvish. A lot of injuries, a lot of scratches. Weathers started last on the 28th and only went 1 inning before being removed with an arm injury. Now he's back already, didn't even go on the IL. Like, it's just rare to see a starting pitcher removed after 1 inning and they don't even miss a start at all. So I can't play him even against Pittsburgh. I just don't trust it at 8K, even though he is a pretty good pitcher in general. And then Mitch Keller, he's been absolutely dreadful this year. And frankly, for most of his career, he's got some talent. He can't harness it. Just way too wild. He gets the Padres here, who they really let me down last night, but likely going back to the well against Mitch Keller, who has been deep into the negatives in fantasy points in 2 of the last 3 starts, including one against San Diego. That one was in Pittsburgh. He gave up 7 earned runs over 3 1/3 innings, 9 hits allowed, 3 walks, just 1 strikeout. I could see the Padres doing something like that to him again tonight.
Yeah, the Padres are definitely standing out as a stack that I'm going to look at. Anytime you can get the Padres with that type of lineup, and especially, you got Grisham, he's back. You got Hosmer and Cronenworth, all the lefties there. I'd look at Tatis Jr. obviously is always in play. But again, if you're going to look at DeGrom today, it's going to be hard to get up to such an expensive stack. So, we'll see about what kind of lineup they throw out there. You maybe can get some cheap pieces. Will Myers is a cheap piece at 2,700 on FanDuel. But, you mentioned all these Pirate bats. I probably won't look anywhere over at the Pirates. I'm just at this point not a fan. But these Padres definitely look interesting to me.
Yeah, I think they're the best stack on the slate. But like you mentioned, DeGrom on the hill, be hard to get a lot of these guys in your lineup. So I guess that makes kind of for an interesting decision, at least, which at least I personally like to see. Padres bullpen is a little bit tired. Generally good, but they've used a lot of their guys recently. So probably not going to Pirates hitters. Brian Reynolds, a guy that I've been on a lot this year, maybe you could go there. But in general, I don't think that's going to be a team that you want too much exposure to. All right, last game on the slate, Baltimore and Seattle, Jorge Lopez and Justin Dunn. Dunn started the year off in a rough way, walked 8 guys against White Sox in his first start, but has been decent since. Rough start last time against Houston, but, in Houston, you kind of forgive him a little bit for that one. He's a decent pitcher. He's got okay stuff, or decent, I would say better than okay stuff, good stuff. Just the command kind of comes and goes for him. Decent matchup, though, against Baltimore. I think he's at least somewhat interesting and in consideration. He did get up to 100 pitches against Boston 2 starts ago, so he does have at least the capability to go deep into a game. Jorge Lopez, he's kind of just been a journeyman starter, an innings eater type to some extent, but really not a great pitcher. I think his season high on the year in terms of pitch count is 81, so he's not going to be in play against Seattle. Kind of like some of these Seattle bats, to be frank. Give me the Seattle side from a pitching and hitting perspective in this one.
Yeah, the Seattle bats are interesting for sure. You can get them fairly cheap too. Mm-hmm. That's a cheaper stack. I mean, that could go along with our DeGrom.
Sure.
Obviously you got Kyle Seager. He's pretty much the most expensive guy. I mean, he's only 3,300. You could look at Ty France and Kyle Lewis and even Taylor Trammell. I'm not certain that I'd full stack here, but Lopez is not very good, as you mentioned. He's been beat up. I think there's a couple games he's given up multiple home runs. So. I'm going to look at some of these Mariner bats for sure. And as far as the Orioles, the Orioles are a pesky little team that sometimes I like to look at when no one else is looking at. But against Jason Dunn, I think I'm going to probably pass there. And I don't even really see any one-off guys. So I'm going to probably just steer clear of the Orioles. But the Mariners for me are somebody that I'm going to dig into a little more as the day goes on and might put me together some sort of a mini stack or something like that on one of my teams, because just like I mentioned, they're fairly cheap and against a shitty pitcher, and I can add them with DeGrom. So looks good to me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm in on these Mariners bats against a bad pitcher, like you mentioned, and then that does allow you to pay up for pitching, which when Jacob DeGrom is on the hill, that's generally a pretty good way to go. That'll do it for the 11 or 12 game slate, depending on which site you're primary playing on. We'll have everything you need, of course, over at Run for Your Sports throughout the day, Discord, Core Plays, Playbook. We'll have our live free show on YouTube. Just search Run for Your Sports on YouTube. I'll be on there with a couple other guys. That'll be at 3:45 Eastern time. And if you do want the premium product with everything we offer for all sports, betting, DFS, and otherwise, use promo code DFSHeater25. That will get you 25% off your first month's payment. That will do it for us. This podcast will return, of course, tomorrow discussing Wednesday's slate. So tune in for that one. Thanks for listening. As always, he's G-Rizen. I'm DraftCheat. We'll check you next time.